Hey everyone, today Angela and I are going to discuss in depth about how I got scammed. Although I'll tell the story, but I did not give them my credit card, almost though. And why this is so common and how you can recognize scammers so the same doesn't happen to you.
Balancing building a successful business and being a superstar mom is hard, and yet, in today's digital world, it's more common than ever.
The question becomes, how do we successfully grow a business and children at the same time?
Join us for a candid conversation as we share our insights into marketing and motherhood. I'm Angela Reeder.
And I'm Jessie Valle. Welcome to the Marketing Moms Podcast.
Hey, so I hate to admit it, but at the same time, I feel that it's important to share my story so that the same doesn't happen to other people. Recently, I was scammed, and I want to say I was scammed because they had me believing. Now, in the end, something happened and I was triggered and I realized it was a scam before I gave them my credit card. But the fact of the matter is, there were several minutes I was scammed, right? Like I felt like I was talking to someone legit. And afterwards, I immediately went on Instagram and shared my story in a live just because while I felt stupid, I also felt proud that I recognized it before it went on longer. And also to just let people know how convincing scammers can be these days. This is also a topic that Angela is very passionate about, and she's working on certifications and things like that all around it. So I figured doing an episode today about why scammers are so convincing would be a really great topic. And if I play devil's advocate for a moment, I kind of want to know what we can learn from scammers as we do sales and how we, I don't want to say manipulate, but manipulate our children into doing
Right.
what we want.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of the scammers use a lot of the same, what I tend to call sleazy marketing tactics,
Mm-hmm.
or infomercial marketing tactics
Mm-hmm.
that we see online. But they're basically just hyped up versions of just general marketing
Yeah,
techniques.
exactly.
And I am super passionate. Not to say that I've never been a victim myself, much like Jessie. I, had a pretty close call in the past. But yeah, it's amazing how easy it is. And they do it because it works. If it didn't work,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't do it. And, it's a little bit like shooting blind. Like you never really know if you're gonna get something, but a lot of it's just in bulk. Like they just
Mm-hmm.
do it so much that it makes it worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go further, I want to tell everyone what happened in case you didn't see my Instagram. So recently, Angela and I applied to trademark Marketing Moms. Yay, go us!
Yay!
And this was a few days ago at this point, right? And I got this call from a number I didn't recognize. And typically, I don't answer numbers I don't recognize. But they called back immediately. And I'm actually kind of waiting on a call from a friend to be a reference for a job. And so I was like, oh, I probably should answer these calls because what if I don't want to miss the opportunity to
Right.
be the
Help.
reference I said I would be. And they called back immediately. And this time I answered because I was like, oh, that's weird. Who calls back twice in a row like that? Especially a scammer. I didn't think they'd call back right
Mhm.
immediately.
Right away, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I answered and they pretended to be the the US trademark office, right?
Mhm.
And they went through this whole spiel and they had my name, my email, my address, all the things on my application. Like they had everything. So I'm thinking in my head, well, they must be legit, right? And the whole thing was about how we were provisionally approved to use the TM, but then it still needed to go through to be like final and official and this and that. And at the end, that all we needed to do was pay the next fee to move forward.
Mhm.
And the fee they asked
Which
for,
sounds so reasonable,
it does. But
especially when you're talking about the government because they make you pay a fee for everything.
exactly. But the fee they asked for, here's where I started to like trigger maybe this isn't real. Because I'm over here like
Mhm.
hopping up and down, like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, the fee they were asking was like double what I already paid. So it's not
Yep.
even close to what I had already paid because I had already paid. That's the other thing. I'm like, I already paid for the application when I filled it out. Like, why do I have to pay again? And I asked that. And of course, they had this answer. And then um, I, I just flat out said, like, I hesitated. And they're like, what's your hesitation? I'm like, I don't know if I believe you. Like, I was honest. I don't know if I believe you. And they're like, well, we're very legit, ma'am. So why don't you take a look at our phone number and check on, check on Google or whatever. And you'll see we are like, this is a real number. So I checked. And of course it does say that it's legit. And they're like, do you see it? I'm like, yeah, but they're like, then what's the problem? I'm like, I just still don't know if I believe you. And they're like, well, do you want us to give you your, like, the case number or whatever? And I was like, isn't that public record? And they're like, no, no. And like, they had this whole spiel about why it was not public record. But inside, I'm thinking, how can it not be public record? If I'm applying for a trademark, I'm sure it's public record.
Yeah.
So anyway, while they're trying to convince me, I'm like over here searching these things. And I found the email that I had originally gotten when I put in my application. So I knew that was legit. And right there on it, it said, they will never ask me over the phone for payment information or personal
Yep.
information. And I immediately hung up. The scammer tried to call back. I didn't answer, and they've left me alone since. Like, I didn't even tell them, oh, I found here, you're a scam. Like, no, I just
Yeah.
hung up. I was
Nope,
like,
I'm
and I'm
on to
done.
you.
I've wasted enough of my life being fooled by you. And yeah, they were just so convincing. And then, of course, now, this morning, a day after, I look in my email and there are more people starting to reach out now
Yeah.
about, hey, let us help you with this. Hey, let us help you with that. Hey, I'm here to do this. And I'm like, they all clearly saw the trademark
Mhm.
application and now they're trying to reach out for my business, even though they may be legit
Right.
for whatever services they're offering, but it's still connected to the fact that all
Right.
that information is public record. And I was, I'll say I was scammed for a few minutes.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
believed them. And the
Well,
other
and
kicker is that it said that it takes months to go
months.
through this process.
Yes.
Not, hey, it's like 3 days later.
Yeah, well,
Like,
and that's part of it too, is like we don't think necessarily, especially when we're doing things like trademark with the government, we don't think of public record being public record, right?
yeah.
Like we're like, okay, yeah, sure, it's public record, but like unless you're looking for it, you're not going to see. It's not like they post it
And
all
these
over the
scammers
internet or anything.
are. They are
They
looking
are
for
that
it.
they are looking for it. So when you get a
Hmm.
call a couple days later about a thing that you don't really think about being public, it's not like you're posting it on social or the government's posting it on social.
Exactly.
Then it makes it easier to fall for.
I thought it was funny. One of the emails we got said that when we reply to their email, like they're not AI or a bot, it's them. And I'm thinking to myself, if this is happening only a few days after we applied,
Uh-huh.
there's no way they didn't use AI and a
There's
bot to
yeah,
like
you use
to send
something.
this email.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely use some sort of automation or AI
Exactly.
to send this email.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But okay, if I answer back, you'll answer as a human, sure.
Sure you
Okay.
will.
Anyway, okay. So now that you know the story, I kind of wanted to go through the reasons why it was so convincing and what we can learn from it, both
Mhm.
on a protecting ourselves from future scams and also what kind of like non sleazy tactics we might be able to take and apply to our own marketing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. First on the list is understanding human psychology. Now, I know
Yeah.
that, Angela, you kind of have a little bit of a passion for this kind of stuff. And I'm sure I've mentioned it to you before, but I actually have a minor in psychology. So, psychology is something that's always interested me as well.
Right. And I think part of that, and it ties in with other things that we'll talk about later, is understanding what drives people and
Mhm.
what's going to connect with people. It's the reason that older people often get like fake calls from um like the police telling them that their grandchild has been arrested and they need to pay money for bail. Like they know that's a thing that the older people especially are going to fall for because it's their grandchild, right? They may
Mhm.
not talk to them very often, or they may, that happened to my parents last time. My parents didn't fall for it, but it did happen to them. And and they, they don't talk to them very often, so they could have gotten in trouble, like, you know, um and business owners like us get calls from the trademark company or the
Mhm.
quote unquote IRS. Like and
Well,
they know that for the most part people want to be helpful and don't want to make waves.
exactly. And so they're playing off, in that instance,
Mhm.
the compassion of a grandparent for their grandchild. Um, it's just like they want to go for like strong emotions, right? So like
Right.
for us, they knew we would be excited about our
Yeah.
trademark, right? So they played off my excitement for moving our business a step forward into the legit world and
Mhm.
trademarking. And they
Yeah.
played off of that excitement and emotion that I had.
Mhm.
But people
Yeah.
also play off of fear. Like, oh, I'm fearing for the person in jail.
Yep.
I need to pay to get them out.
Yep.
Or greed or curiosity, like all these strong emotions.
Yeah, we got a call one time that was supposed to be from the IRS. It was about our taxes and how we hadn't filed them right and we owed them this X amount of more money. And like you, they had me for a few minutes. Like, I don't, not super excited to admit that, but like, but they did. And part of what made me pause was just I didn't have the money they were asking for. Um, but after a couple minutes of talking, I was like, something's not right. So I hung up the phone, like Googled, looked, found the actual IRS phone number, called. And as soon as I talked to the first person, they were like, we don't do that. Like,
Mhm.
absolutely. And bless the person I talked to on the phone. He was very nice. He was like, would it make you feel better if I look up your account and like
Mhm.
make sure everything's okay? And I was like, it really would. So he did, and it was fine. And then he gave me a website to like go report it, and I'll give it to you so we can put it in our links in case anybody has a thing they need to report. But yeah, that fear of, oh my gosh, like something's wrong with our taxes, this is going to be so much trouble, like we're going to be in
Mhm.
so much trouble, like it shuts down that thinking part of your brain where you're just
Yeah,
like, I
because
just
the
need to fix
fear
this.
kicks over.
Yeah, I just need to fix this. I need to make it go away.
Mhm.
Like, so
Yeah.
you're not looking for those markers of a scam.
Yeah. The other thing scammers do is okay, well, almost before we move, well, do you want to talk about how this pertains? This is me and Angela planning ahead right here. Do you want to talk about how it pertains, like how we can use it in a non-sleazy way immediately, or should we get through all of them and then go through it?
Let's get through all of them and then go through it because a lot of them tie into each other.
Okay, cool. So, second, speaking of, is preparation.
That thing we don't do.
That thing we don't do. Scammers do.
Scammers
They
do.
prepared. Not only did, in my instance, they have all my information, but they clearly had a script for what to say if I said XYZ. When I said,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I believed you, it was half a second before they said, hey, I have an idea. Take the phone number and go search it on Google.
Yeah.
The Also, that's how I kind of red flagged, was because
Mhm.
they were like so quickly to shut down my
Mhm.
I don't know if I believe you. Oh, I
Yeah.
have a way that you can believe me.
Yeah, there was no like, "Oh, like okay, I get that. Let's, see what we
Yeah.
can do to help you feel better. It was just immediately like, oh, I have an answer for that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're prepared. They spend a lot of time looking for things. This goes in with, you get the email scams, like you click on a link and the site looks legitimate, and there's, you don't think about it, but like there's a lot that goes into making a website look like what it looks like. And so one that looks legitimate and not just like splashed up like it was built in the 1990s, like there's some preparation that goes into that.
Mhm.
Like they really
Mhm.
do think about a lot of different, possibilities and prepare for things.
Yeah. So the next one includes social engineering skills, which is basically being able to manipulate us into giving up our confidential information.
Right. And that ties in with the understanding psychology and things like that. I told Jesse I
Hmm.
just had to take a quiz on all of this stuff, so it's all fresh in my mind. But that is the biggest part of like data privacy invasion, is those social engineering skills. Like the weakest part of our structure is the people. It's the
Hmm.
people that put their password into a fake site or give their credit card number over a phone. Like your credit card company can keep all your data super secure, but if you give your credit card number to a scammer, it doesn't do any good. So that's the part that a lot of these scammers really really push on, is
Hmm.
that social engineering that our culture has designed us to be helpful to government officials,
Hmm.
to worry about our grandchildren, to
Hmm.
help out friends, like things like that.
Yeah, that's the part that scares me the most is if I had given them my credit card number, how much were they going to charge?
Right.
God, I can't even think about
Right,
it. It
it
gives
may
me the
almost makes you
chills.
sick.
Oh, but it doesn't make me sick enough to not talk about it, so it doesn't happen to other
Mhm.
people.
Yeah. And I just want to take a minute to say too, like I know sometimes we hear about scammers, especially with older people, where it's like, oh, if you don't have a credit card, you can go get a gift card. Like the
Hmm.
government doesn't take gift cards. And you hear about those things and you think, like, especially us younger people, because we
Hmm.
know better, like the government doesn't take gift cards. Why would you think that was legitimate? But like it worked for them because it was engineered toward them,
Hmm.
just like something like this trademark thing wouldn't necessarily work on grandma.
Hmm.
Like,
This is true.
you know what I mean? But it
Hmm.
would work on us because we're expecting it, because,
Uh-huh.
we're
We're
used to being
excited about
helpful,
it.
we're
Yeah,
excited about it, like things like that. So it's just, so when you hear about scams and you're like, who even falls for that? Like, I promise there's a scam out there that you will fall for. Like, maybe not all the
exactly.
way.
I like that.
Maybe you're not going to hand over your credit, but there's one out there that you will fall for. Like, they've engineered it that way.
That's really interesting for you to say that, like, there are scams engineered for the person they're trying to scam.
Hmm.
Hmm. Okay, the next thing is adaptability, which is kind of like what I said. When I was like, I don't know if I believe you, they're like, oh, let me switch tactics and be like, here's why I'm legit
Right.
slash not legit.
Not really.
But yeah, if one tactic doesn't quite seem to be working, they switch gears in a beat because guess what? They prepared and they have scripts.
Yeah. Yeah, and they practice this is their job
Hmm.
essentially. Like we don't really think about something like that as a job, but like
Hmm.
that's their job. That's the way they make money. It's not legal and it's not moral or ethical, but that is how they do it. And they are just as skilled at their job as you are at yours.
It's like I actually thought about that. I'm like, what if that person had put their skills to a more
Right?
legit
To a
use?
better use.
Like they would
Yes.
be really good.
Yeah, and like there's there's a lot of money in like the opposite side working against the scammers. Like there's
Yeah.
jobs for that. You could do that. Like you could put those skills to good use.
The next one is playing on authority, which we kind of already discussed. These people pretended they were the trademark office. The people for
Mhm.
you pretended they were the IRS. The people scamming grandma are the people pretending to be the police. We
Mm.
are trained to trust these
Yep.
officials. And so when someone pretends to be those officials, it pulls our guard down just a little bit more than
Yeah.
if, hi, I'm from,
Wherever.
the
Yeah.
farmer's market.
Yeah, I would say we do this with corporations too. We get emails that are supposed to be from corporations and we see them as sort of authority figures. And so we let our guard down. We're trained to trust them, to help them,
Hmm.
it's like I know you've done this because you have a house. Like when you do a mortgage, the bank needs like a ton of things. They're constantly telling
Hmm.
you, we need this thing, we need this thing, we need this thing.
Yeah.
And we give it to them without really thinking much about it, and it's that same call and response, like
Yeah.
somebody that says they're in a position of authority says, I need this from you, and you say, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing is when I applied for the trademark, I had to prove my identity, right? Like I
Mhm.
had to take shots of my driver's license.
Driver's
They had to
license,
know
yeah.
my social security number. They had to like get all like I even it's not just the it's not even just the driver's license. I literally had to take a selfie
Oh yeah.
so that they could see the selfie along with my driver's
Mhm.
license.
Yeah.
Like they had to prove my identity and now they're asking for my credit card number over the phone?
Right.
No, I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so. Yes.
Okay, the next thing is urgency. You gotta hurry, they're in jail. Hey, you
Yep.
gotta pay me so that you can start doing this
Yep.
immediately. Mm,
Yeah. That's the big one, because much like we talked about with the fear part, that urgency makes you feel like you don't have time to think about it. Like, I don't
mhm.
have time to think about it. I don't have time to reason. I don't have time to notice what's going on. I just have to handle this right now, real fast. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but we see this a lot in marketing as well.
Yeah. And I feel like the phone call made it more urgent because when you're
Hmm.
on the phone with someone, it's like, I have to handle this right now
Right.
versus even an email is like, oh, I could
Yeah.
put this
You have
off till
time to
later
think
because
about it.
it's more asynchronous. But a phone call
Yes.
is like, it's happening right now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Targeting vulnerable populations. So
Hmm.
this says targeting vulnerable populations, but really, like you said earlier, it's everybody.
Yeah. Everybody is vulnerable to something.
Hmm.
It's just that, it's what you're vulnerable to that is
Exactly.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. So it really, yeah, everybody's susceptible to some sort of scam. It just depends what kind of engineering.
Yeah.
Um,
And nobody thinks they're
yeah.
going to fall for a scam. Like, even
Hmm.
the people that we think of as like vulnerable populations, like older people or people that aren't very tech savvy, like nobody thinks, oh, I would fall for a scam.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think they're gullible. And that makes
Exactly.
it even easier because you
Hmm.
think, I would see it if it was a scam. I would
Hmm.
notice if it
Hmm.
was a scam, right?
Yeah.
And then you just follow along with what they're saying, and the next thing you know, you've been targeted and lost out money or
Yeah.
just a little bit of embarrassment if you manage
And
to,
it's
catch it
not
early enough.
even, yeah, it's not even like it doesn't have to be something as big as a government agency, right? Like I know
Right.
there have been people who are scammed on like Craigslist listings.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Like you want to buy something, they get your money and then they don't deliver.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to think, like I said it earlier, it's easy to think like, oh, that's just for other people because I would never fall for that kind of scam. But it's like, yeah, they're not going to target you with that kind of scam.
Mhm. All right, next is the plausibility. So, yeah, they are
This one was
referencing
big. Yeah.
yeah, they're referencing real events. Like
Mhm.
we put in a trademark application, they referenced it.
Yep.
You filed your taxes, they referenced it.
They referenced it. Yep.
You have a grandchild, they
Yeah.
referenced it.
They reference it. Yeah. And in the case of like my parents, they had the grandchild's name.
Mm.
where he was at. Like they call, purportedly from the same place that he was in. Like
Mhm.
it was just like they have that enough to make it sound reasonable. Like
Mhm.
it sounds like it could be a thing. And part of that is they get that information from those public resources, like we were talking earlier, from the trademark application, from our
Mhm.
social media, from, the information that we put out on the internet, where I went to wherever to visit my grandson this week or whatever. Like you put that
Oh,
information out there and they gather it up and they use it to make it sound like they're legit.
plausible. Yeah.
Yep. I get this sometimes. I have clients that forward me emails they get that are supposedly from companies, and it like legitimate companies they have accounts with,
Mhm.
but they'll, email it to me and be like, do I need to do anything? Is this a thing? But then you look at the like where the email came from and you're like, that's like a Gmail account. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It
Yeah.
looks like a legitimate business email, but if you really pay attention, but
Mhm.
again, there's usually that urgency, like click this button in 24 hours or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. The use of modern technology. So we've already discussed AI and bots in length, but yeah, like people are going to make use of that
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. And they can spoof call numbers. They can make it look like they're calling from a friend's number, a government number,
That's what
a
just
trademark
happened to
company,
me.
a trademark
Hey,
government.
check this number online. I promise I'm
Mhm.
legit.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
though
So
here's
they,
the interesting thing is my phone even said like possible scam
possible scam.
or
Yeah.
scam likely is what it says. So
Mhm.
like even my phone knew scam likely, but I still answered
Right.
and I still fell
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. Yeah, I get those too, where it's like possible junk or possible scam or whatever. But yeah, it's they use those technologies that a lot of people don't really know exist too.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't think about, oh, they could just make it look like they're calling from a different number, or they can make these websites look legit, or you know, you mistype a URL and end up somewhere, you think you're on the actual site, but you're not. Like,
Yeah. Also, is persistence. Hey, I didn't answer the
yeah,
first phone call. They immediately called back. As soon as I hung up, they called me back
they immediately
immediately.
called back. Yeah, and what scammer calls back twice?
What scammer calls back twice? Well, apparently this one.
The persistent ones.
The persistent ones. I half expected an email from them.
Oh yeah, that would not have surprised me at all if you had gotten an email from, because
Uh,
they use different ways of reaching out. And it's not always going to be just or a text. It wouldn't surprise me if you got a text from them. I
mhm.
have been getting texts from not First Merchants Bank, and because I'm saying the bank name, I want to make it clear it's not from them.
Yeah.
To tell me that my account's been locked and I need to click a button, give them
Mhm.
information. Like, now I don't have an account there, like at all, so I
Mhm.
know it's a scam.
Yeah.
But in that case, it's like we were talking earlier, they're casting kind of a wide net. They're just going to send this out to everybody, and somebody's going to have an account there and click the button,
Yeah.
and they'll get what they're looking for. So, again, you think, oh, I wouldn't fall for that scam, but like I'm not falling for it because I know I don't have an account there. Like if I
Exactly.
had an account there, it might be a
You
different
might.
story.
And yeah, it was like when there was a time where we didn't have a car loan
Mhm.
and we owned both our vehicles and we got calls about that kind of stuff. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah, sure. But we own our
sure.
vehicles, but thanks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like you think, no, who falls for this? Like, well, people with car notes,
Yes,
people with
exactly.
accounts at that bank.
Like I said, maybe I'd fall for it today because we do have,
Right.
one now, but there was a short period of time where we didn't have
Very
any car
briefly.
payments. And that was when they called, and I was like,
Yes.
false.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing is the global reach. Now, I will be the
Mhm.
first to say that the person I was on the phone with, English was not their first language.
Right.
However, their English was really good.
Yeah. And
Like, I
that's
didn't have
not
any problem understanding them without being able to tell they did have an accent, which also makes me realize you would be so good in a legit position.
right. And that's another thing, like, it's we're not unused to hearing, especially those of us in the United States, we're not unused to hearing accents, like, when we call centers or when we
Mhm,
call these 800 numbers or government agencies we get put
mhm.
through, we're not unused to hearing that because they
Exactly,
outsource a lot.
exactly,
So
and that's
you
why I'm
hear
over
that,
here
and it's
like,
not immediately a red flag. You're not immediately going, "This person doesn't speak English very well." Like, you're just like,
yeah,
"Oh, it's just another person."
another
Like,
call center, yeah,
their English is better than my whatever language they speak, but still, like
exactly, and that's why I was, like, mad. I was like, "She spoke English so well, she could have
so
used
good,
that to her
right?
advantage at a legit call
At
center."
a legit place.
Okay,
Oh, and that's
and
another thing. You said "she," like,
yeah.
and going back to the social engineering, people tend to trust women more. Like, if you hear a man on the phone,
Mm,
especially women, if they
yeah,
hear a man on the phone, they may be a little bit hesitant, but if you hear a woman on the phone, people are a lot more likely to trust them.
mm, that's a really good point too. Ooh, look how much you're learning. And this one says low risk, right?
Yeah, which is
Like,
true.
there is a low risk of them being caught.
Yeah. Yeah, which is true. Like, it's very unlikely that whoever called you yesterday is gonna get caught, or at least they're not gonna get caught anytime soon.
And I can't, yeah, exactly. I can't report them anywhere because they masked their phone number with the government phone
Mhm.
number. So it's
Yeah.
not like I could be like,
Yeah.
"Here's the number they called me from." It does no good.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, and we'll drop the link. There is a place to report it, but and that is part of it. Like, if you can't, you feel like, "I don't have any information." Like,
Mhm.
you can still report it, but, like, again, they spoofed the number where there's nothing to track, even if they tried to,
Yeah.
look at your phone records, which the government supposedly doesn't do without a warrant. But even if they did, like, they're not gonna find anything.
Well, and I liked that like, for sure legit email I got when I put in my
Yes.
application had that little blurb about beware of
Yeah,
scammers.
we're
Like,
not doing.
they know this happens all the time, and
Yeah.
this is how to make sure we will never ask for your credit card number. So, like, I
Yes.
knew.
Yes.
We'll never
And
ask for your payment information.
I did, like, a two-factor authentication for something the other day,
Mhm.
and I put my little thing in, and it sent me the text, and on the text I got, it actually said, "We will never call you or text you and ask for this number. Like, this will only
Mm.
ever be used on our website." Like, and I don't know what good it does to get, like, because those things only last, like, 15 minutes, but, like,
Right.
clearly it does somebody some good if
Mhm.
companies are telling people, "We're
Mhm.
not ever gonna call and ask you for this number," or, "We're not ever
Well,
gonna,
and I
text
appreciate
and
that
ask you to give us this."
because of that line in the email,
Mhm.
that's how I knew 100% that it was a scam.
Yeah,
So I actually appreciated that. I was like, "Wow, thanks for
absolutely.
assuring me that you're never gonna ask me for this," because if it was legit, I was gonna feel really bad hanging up on them.
Right, yeah, exactly, and that goes back to that authority and social engineering, like, I don't wanna miss out, I don't wanna, upset someone, I don't wanna, ruin our chances of getting that trademark because I pissed off somebody in the trademark office, like,
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. And then I also looked it up, like, because I logged in and looked it up, and I'm like, "But it says that our case hasn't been assigned to someone yet." "Oh,
Right.
yeah, because XYZ, they had an answer."
Yep, exactly, they're prepared.
Okay, so Angela, this has taken
Mhm.
30 minutes, and I do wanna continue the conversation with you about how this can apply to non-sleazy marketing tactics and all that. But I think what we're going to do is put the longer conversation in the membership. So if you are
Yeah.
interested in hearing our take on how you can apply the stuff that the scammers did in a non-sleazy way, why don't you head over to marketingmomsmonthly.com and sign up for a free month? That way you can hear the rest of this conversation for free and all the other goodies that we have inside the membership, including our community chat where you can have access to me and Angela all the time and we can talk about anything business or motherhood or peace and balance related.
Yes.
And so we're just going to leave it at that. So also, I am going to get our lovely sales expert, Renee Rebar, and
Yay.
talk to her about what, like, her take on this scam society is, and why she thinks, as a sales professional, why she thinks scammers are so successful and convincing. So if you're interested in all of that, head over to marketingmomsmonthly.com, sign up for our membership, and we will see you there. Until next week.
Thank you for joining us today. We're so honored this is where you chose to spend your time.
If this episode helped you in some way, please share it with another mom who needs to hear it. We're in this together.
And if you're ready for next steps, free goodies, and more, head over to marketingmomspodcast.com.
We'll see you next week.